Welcome to the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast, the #1 resource for automotive sales professionals, managers, and owners to learn how to make money, accumulate wealth, and to all out ball out in the auto industry. And now your hosts, Sean V. Bradley and L.A. Williams.
Hey everybody, this is Sean V. Bradley, creator of the Millionaire Car Salesman Group, the podcast with L.A. Williams, the blind phone master, and the president of Dealer Synergy. And this is season 2 of the Millionaire Car Salesman podcast. And I'm super excited to introduce my guest. It's Tustin, Ulrich. He's the general manager of Roper Mitsubishi. And Tustin, say hello to everybody.
Hey man, happy to be on the show.
Okay, perfect. So let's just jump into it. You're the GM of a Mitsu store, correct?
Yeah, so I actually did general manager at 2 stores, a Kia store and a Mitsubishi store.
Okay, and where are you guys located?
We're in Joplin, Missouri.
Okay. Yeah, I know the area really well. There's a Chevy dealership, Crossroad Chevrolet, in the area.
Yeah, they got recently bought out, but yes, there's a big Chevy store here. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so tell us, this is all about you. So tell us about your background. Like, you're a GM now of multiple stores. How long have you been in the automotive industry, and where did you start out? And let's start there.
Yeah, so I started out 14 years ago this month. I answered a newspaper ad. That's how old and antiquated it is. I answered a newspaper ad to start in the BDC of the dealership that I currently run. So I was working at a telemarketing place. I was their top salesperson there. They took a bonus away from me. I didn't think it was fair, so I started searching for an ad and came here to Roper Kia to start. So the BDC 16 years ago was upstairs off printed call sheets with just a phone. You just hand dialed everybody and tried to set appointments for the sales force. After about 4 months, I moved into sales. To be honest, the first couple of years, I wasn't very good at selling cars. I wasn't very focused. I didn't try very hard. I had a mentor kind of take me under his wing and help build me. That took me to where I was selling a lot of cars consistently, making really good money. In 2010, I broke every record the store had for sales, commissions, gross profit produced. In 2011, I moved into finance. I was there for 2 years, then went to used car manager. For 2 years, I actually got fired from this dealership by my mentor, which is an interesting story. Got fired, went and ran a Chevy store as their general manager for 2 years, gave it about 30% growth. And then when my mentor left the Kia store, they were looking for somebody to come back and fill his shoes and run the dealership. And they asked me to come back and do it. And I thought it was a great opportunity, so I came back.
Wow. Okay. And you sound young. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm 33.
Oh my gosh. And you're the general manager. I'm so glad about this interview then. So you're 33 years old and you're GM of multiple stores. I mean, let's talk about that. What was that like? Like, when did you decide that you didn't want to just sell cars, that you wanted to not only just be a sales manager or a GSM, you wanted to run stores? When did that fire start happening?
So I'll never forget the conversation I had with my wife January 1st of 2010. So, the second half of 2009, I had a really good year. That's kind of when sales took off for me. And I realized that this was a career that I could provide a lifestyle for my family that I never thought possible. Because the truth is, a little more background on me, I graduated in a town of 700 people. I was in the bottom of a class of 35. Like, it wasn't even that hard to be the top of 35, and I was the bottom of it. So I came from a really small school. My wife was literally raised in a house built in the front of a barn in the middle of nowhere. So very small town people, but I realized I could have something better. So January 1st, 2010, I sat down with my wife. She was pregnant, 8 months pregnant at the time. We had a 3-year-old. And I said, listen, this is going to be our career. The reward is going to be a lifestyle that we never thought possible. Okay. But what it's going to take is an extreme amount of commitment from me for the next 12 months at a minimum to even get my foot in the door of management. But I know if I can give it everything I have, that I will be able to provide a lifestyle for us that we never even thought possible. And here we are, 10 years later, doing exactly what I said we would be.
That's inspiring. Okay, so what was your strategy? How did you become a GM? So how long? Let's walk us through this. Like, what was it from sales to, I guess, what was your first management gig?
So I got into finance in February of 2011. I started out in the finance office. I just owned it. Here's the ultimate thing. Whatever I'm going to do, I have to own it. I got to take full responsibility for it. I'm going to be responsible for the results. I'm not going to pass the buck off on anybody else. Whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to be the best at. So I took that mindset in finance. When I got in finance at the store, they were running about $800 a car. Not very good. I step in, we start running $1,600 a car. So I understand $1,600 a car isn't Goliath right now. There's people out there that run much better numbers. But 10 years ago,
that's really good.
Well, thanks. My finance guys now run better than that. They crush me. But anyways, that's not what it's about. Back then, before, finance wasn't the big push back then because front-end margins were still really good 10 years ago. So $1,600 a car back then was great, and I just owned that. And then that persistence got me a used car manager job at the same store, promoted the used car manager, taking over a failing department. And we crushed that. So my team this year, we decided at the end of 2019 that 2020 is going to be the year that we break every record in the store. So we have a record board, record new units, used units, total units, gross for each department, F&I gross, total store gross for every month listed out. We're chasing it hard. So what was fun about doing the record check was it was easy to see the year I was used car manager because I dominated the record book, and it hasn't been as good since. So I'm excited to get back to that.
That's strong. Okay, so let's talk as a general manager, what are the most important things to you? Would it be CRM? Would it be training? So let's go through, because I'm interviewing you as a general manager of two stores.
Sure.
So what are your hot buttons as a GM to run a successful dealership or dealer group? Let's go through some hot points, checklist stuff.
Well, so I'll talk through what my game plan was when I took over the store 2 years ago. So in 2017, the general manager store, who's a great friend of mine, still a great mentor, I still talk to him once a week, but he was on to another phase of his life. The person that was in charge of the store that was here maybe didn't own it quite as well as they could have. And so the store lost a fair chunk of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars in 2017 was a net loss. So, obviously not successful. So when I came in, I had one battle cry. My battle cry is culture is everything. And ultimately, I feel like if you provide a higher level of training to somebody and an amazing culture and be family first, the mindset that car dealerships have to be bell to bell 6 days a week, and that you're going to miss holidays and you're going to miss your kids' dance recitals, I don't buy into any of that. So for me, it was, I'm going to be culture first. I'm going to provide an excellent amount of training, and I'm going to invest in my people. If I do that, the results will be my reputation around me will grow to the point where A players are asking to come work here. And then when A players ask to come work here, then I'm going to have the best team in town. And then when I have the best team in town, we're going to stop talking about what is everybody else in Joplin, Missouri doing, and we're going to start talking about what is Roper Kia doing. We're not worried about anybody else. We're worried about what are we doing compared to ourselves to break our records to be the best we've ever been.
That is unbelievable. That is exciting. Okay, so now, let's go back to, you said that's your battle cries, like culture. So what are the things? Because I walk into stores and it's miserable sometimes. There's the managers are beating the shit out of the salespeople. They're bitch sessions instead of educational sessions. How do you let's just say just pretend like I'm a new general manager. I just took over a store. Give me advice. Coach me on what's the first thing I need to do to change the culture in my store.
So the first thing you got to do is, okay, so right now my management team is reading the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell together. Every week we walk through a chapter of the workbook. Last week's chapter was the law of communication, and the law of, you have to understand that before you can ask for somebody's hand, you have to touch their heart. Ooh. That's what John says in the book.
Right,
okay?
I love that.
So that's what I live by. So what I do every single week, I meet for a full hour with every manager on my staff. It's 12 people. for a full hour. It's almost 30% of my time here. I meet one-on-one. We close my door. We listen to music. We talk about family. It's very, very little about work. Sometimes it's about work, but 9 times out of 10, I walk into those meetings with zero agenda. And the reason why is because we talk about work all the time. We have text groups, we have messenger groups. We do all of those things where we talk about work. We're talking about cardios, we're talking about salespeople, we're talking about problems and customers and blah, 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 blah. All those conversations already happened. What's going on at home?
Right.
How's your husband? How's your wife? What's going on with the kids? Is crew playing basketball this weekend? What time's his game? Because I'm going to go work the desk so you can go watch his game. So I understand that if I can do that, if I can touch their hearts, and it has to go another level than that, I also have to touch their spouse's hearts. So for instance, if we do a dinner to celebrate the store, it's not just employees, it's employees and spouses. And not only do I invite the spouses, I give the spouses a gift with a handwritten card from me thanking them for their sacrifice of what their spouse is doing here every day. Because ultimately, there's going to be a day where somebody's pissed, and they're going to go home, and they're going to be like, I'm so mad, and blah, 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 and the spouse is going to say, hey, but wait. See, we live in an industry that thrives on turnover and change. And so we just don't care. One guy leaves, we don't care, we find another guy. I don't feel that way. I want to have lifers here, because that's the only way we can grow and build a solid team is if we buy into one another and commit to it. But I need that support from home just as much as I need the support here.
That is so strong. Okay, talk to me about, and here's what I believe as a trainer, is that there's definitely training for a dealership, for let's just say a Mitsubishi store, right? Great. Then
sure.
Separate from that, in my opinion, it's not training, it's something called professional development. Separate from that is personal development, and separate from that is team building. So let's go through this. What do you do for team building? Do you do anything at your organization for team building?
Yeah, we do all kinds of stuff. We do things that everybody can rally around. So, for instance, something that for team building, every October, we take the whole store paintballing. Close the store.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. So we went through 50,000 paintballs this year. I mean, it's a blast. People have so much fun. And I asked them, we do a big kickoff meeting every quarter. So I asked in the yearly kickoff meeting, hey, does anybody want to change from paintball to something else? Because it gets violent out there. I mean, it's no holds bar. We're shooting each other. And nobody wanted to change it from paintball. Like even the girls in the BDC in the office are like, no, we're going paintballing. Like they're excited about it. So we do those things. We do kickoff meetings once a quarter where we bring the whole store together. We do meals once a month as a dealership. One time a year, I have the managers cook the meal and serve it to the employees because they need to understand that we are servant leaders first and we're here to help them. How better do you do that than to serve them a meal? So we do things like that. Obviously sales meetings, we try to build team environment. Another thing that we do is we also do daily training at 11:30. So every day, no matter what, at 11:30 we train. Sometimes we have our top salespeople do the training. Usually it's a department head of a manager, but always somebody doing training about something. Yesterday's training was by my finance manager. He talked about why you invest in 401k and why health insurance is important and how to save and and doing all the basic fundamental life things. He's like, in his training, he said, listen, they don't teach you in home ec class why you invest into a Roth IRA at the end of the year to get a deduction to fit you into a tax bracket. And now that money's free. So if you need help with that, you need to come to us and ask because we're individuals that think on that level. Please come ask and walk through that training. So training can be several different things, but I think training is everything.
Oh my gosh, this is so exciting to hear. So tell me some things that you're proud of that your organization's done, some milestones, whether they're units, for the store, whether they are, units for one of your salespeople is doing 50 cars a month. What are some exciting things that you'd like to turn around and just acknowledge that you're proud of that you or your team have accomplished?
Sure. So in 2018 was my first full year at GM, and if I'm being honest, it was a really rough year. Half my staff that were people that were here before I came back, they used to be my bosses. Half of them left to go start a store in another town about 4 hours away. So, that was 2018 was a lot of rebuilding, a lot of soul searching for me. In 2019, we only sold about 30 more cars than we did in 2018. Everybody's like, yeah, 30 cars, that's not that many. You're right. We grossed $1.4 million more dollars.
Wow.
Than we did in 2018. Over $1 million. Listen, one of my favorite guys is Jonathan Dawson. Dawson says it best: units are vanity, profits sanity, and he's right. So $1.4 million increase on only 30 units is a big deal. We did a good job. And it's because we constantly talk and teach about provide the Ruth Chris level of customer service and then expect a big tip. Like, it's okay to ask for all the money as long as you're providing all the service for the customer. If you go to McDonald's, you expect a different level of service than if you go to a steakhouse. So we want to be the steakhouse. So, the $1.4 million of growth was huge. We're excited for 2020 because our goal is to be number one volume new car dealer in the state of Missouri for Kia, which, considering St. Louis and Kansas City are markets that we deal with, and we're in a town of 50,000 people. So, pretty excited to chase that goal. We didn't miss it by much in 2019, and we'll get it in 2020. That was big. Best finance year ever in 2020 or 2019. So we had some milestones there.
I love it. So let's just say I'm on your team. I'm on the sales floor. What type of, take your entire career, last 14 years, the last year that you've been a GM, and let's just say you were doing a one-on-one with me. What advice would you give a showroom sales consultant on, like, if I say, listen, Tustin, I want to make money in this industry. I see all online car salespeople making a ton of money. How can I make the most amount of money working for you at this Kia dealership, this Mitsubishi dealership? What advice do you have for me as a salesperson under your command? Talk to me.
Sure. So I actually have one salesperson I'm mentoring now, and him and I just had this conversation as we're walking through his goals for 2020. I decided, although I'm mentoring my staff, I want to mentor one salesperson as well. I think I can at least reach down and do that. So as I'm mentoring the one salesperson one-on-one, that's his goal. I'll be honest, my first answer is, if all you're doing is chasing the money, I feel like you're probably chasing the wrong thing. Like, ultimately, this is a people industry. We're in a people world. If you're just chasing, Carvana is just chasing dollars. They're eliminating all the people out of it. So how do we fight that? We fight that by chasing people. How do you build relationships? How do you grow? Because if last night I sold a Yukon Denali we traded for to my neighbor in his driveway, negotiated the whole deal, it's going to make a good amount of money. And I don't have to just lay down. You did zero shopping for this vehicle. I brought it to your driveway. I showed it to you. I'm providing this excellent level of customer service. Here's the deal. Take it or leave it. And they're like, yeah, we'll take it.
There you go.
You don't have to you have to provide a different level of service if you want a different result. We are in a transactional society. We're in a transactional industry. My little sister just totaled a car, and for whatever reason, my mom wanted a brand new Toyota Camry. I'm like, whatever, fine. So I know a buddy that owns a Toyota store. So I said, hey, let's go to my buddy. He did give us a great deal on the car. But when we showed up, they treated us horrible. My mom's an 800 credit score, putting a lot of money down, knows exactly, this should be the easiest process in the world. It still took 3.5 hours. It still took 3.5 hours. I had to ask if she could buy an extended warranty because I believe in them. And I'm like, this is the worst transaction ever. I was fuming at the end of it because that's not good. That's why car dealerships are dying, is because we refuse to provide an excellent level of service and ask for the tip. We just want to be a transaction. Just don't believe that way. So I tell salespeople, take care of the customers, follow the process, make a friend. It's the same thing I said earlier about leadership. You have to touch their heart before you can ask for the tip. And you can't be phony about it. But ultimately, if you come to work, have an organized game plan, you have to do the little things, handwrite cards to people. It goes a long ways because it shows intentionality. Make phone calls. Show your people you care. Do little stuff People will want to come back and buy from you all the time. And that's how you build a book of business. Ultimately, that's how you make the most money. I still to this day sell 8 to 10 cars a month.
That's awesome.
I haven't marketed myself as selling cars in years. It's not what I do anymore. I tell people all the time, selling cars is a byproduct of my job. I build people. So selling cars isn't even on my radar. I sold a Yukon Denali last night because people know I'm going to take care of them. I built those relationships. I get to pull on those all the time.
Okay, now let's transition to sales manager. Let's just say that
Sure.
I am a new sales manager on your team. You're the GM, you're the big boss. What expectations you have for me? So have like a mini sales management expectation meeting. So like you're going to say something like, Sean, welcome to the sales management team. And here's what I'm expecting you to do as a sales manager. So kind of tell me what my job description is and tell me my expectations, from you as my general manager. How should I manage and develop my sales team under your command? Go.
Yeah. So I'm a lead by example. I'm always going to tell you, watch what I do because I practice exactly what I preach. Servant leadership is everything. You can ask anybody on my staff the last time I yelled at an employee here. They won't be able to name a date. I don't yell at people. There's no point. Like if we're at the point that I have to use intimidation to motivate you, I've lost you and we're done. Like I'm not there. Never going to do that. What I want to do is provide you all the help I can to make you successful. And then I'm going to hold you to an extreme level of accountability to results. That's it. And listen, it's okay if you can't provide the results or you're not willing to do the job. That's fine. Let's shake hands and part ways. It doesn't have to be nasty. I had a manager quit from the Mitsubishi store 90 days ago, and ultimately I feel like he left because he realized the accountability of the job was too high, not because I ever yelled at him or demeaned him or told him he was worthless or didn't sell enough cars. Those conversations never happen in my store. It's not what I'm about. If you don't do X, you're fired, I hate it. Like if we've gotten to that point, we've missed the boat. So I want you to be a servant leader. I want you to go and hold their hand and help them, not say, you're an idiot. Why didn't you get a TO? That's wrong language. Okay, let me ask you, why didn't you get a TO? What was your thought process? Change how people think. That's what a sales manager is supposed to do. You're here to hold people accountable to results, but help teach and guide them every day. Listen, yes, there's fundamental things I want you to do. Every night before we leave, notes are put in CRM, customers are dispositioned. That's what you have to do. Every night when the store closes, I'm checking CRM. I may be from home. I may be on a 20 group trip. I may be wherever, but I'm checking it because we have to have accountability to the day's results. If we don't, how can we be successful tomorrow? I'm going to ask you to do follow-up every day. All the customers who were in yesterday, you're calling, not your sales team, not the BDC, you. Hey, this is Sean from Rupert Kia. I see you in yesterday, and I'm sorry we weren't able to help you. Is there anything I can do to be of service to you? Just small follow-up and those things and making sure your salespeople are doing the little things. This business is so basic. If you'll just do the little stuff right, the results will come.
Okay. Now, do you have a GSM under you?
I do not.
Okay, not a problem. Let's go into money. So if you're like, what advice, because I hear that you're mentoring people and you're doing so much with the culture, it's amazing. What I find is that most Americans are not financially responsible or fiscally, literate. And so if somebody starts making like ridiculous amount of money, they have like a $3,000 commission check this week or something like that, what advice would you tell your people, whether they're sales or management, on how to be responsible? You don't recommend that they just buy rims and buy a bunch of depreciating assets and live in above their means. So do you do any type of coaching on how, with their new money, how to be financially responsible, how to turn around and invest, or what to invest in, and those type of things?
Yeah, so when open enrollment or somebody becomes eligible for 401k, I'm having those conversations. But about every 90 days, I'll have that training with sales staff. What are your goals? What are you looking to be at financially? And I teach in parables and stories. That's the way I teach. So I always talk about the first big goal I ever had was I wanted to save $50,000 to build a house worth at least $250,000. Because if I go back to the beginning, a kid from a small town that graduated in the bottom of his class and a girl that grew up in the front of a barn, a house worth of $250,000 we're there, right? We've hit it. So that was the big goal. But if you say to somebody, save $50,000, that seems like a goal that's way too far beyond their reach. If you break that down to how much more you need to make per month, how many car deals that equals, how many customers do I talk to, and how many customers that equaled per day. I'll never forget the number. It was 2.7 opportunities a day. I told myself, if I can talk to 2.7 opportunities every day and be disciplined with the money side, in a year I'll have 50 grand, and I did. So it's learning to teach that, but ultimately, and here's what I want to say, it only matters what people are willing to apply. So like the manager of the equipment Mitsubishi, I can give him all the help and advice I want to and everything I can to make him successful. But if he's not willing to apply it and take it to heart, that's on him, that's not on me. Right? It's not my responsibility that people apply. So I'm always offering to my salespeople, offering advice, try to be helpful with finances and coaching. And if they'll take any of the advice and run with it, sure, I'd absolutely run down that path as far as we need to make them successful.
That is so strong. That is so strong. Wow, this is definitely way more incredible than I thought it was. I was really impressed when I did, some basic research on you and when you wanted to be on the show. But just the way that you're freestyling and spitting this information is powerful. So let's start to wrap this up and let's go back. Can you give me a synopsis from your 14 years in automotive? So I want you to lead the industry, let's close out the interview by giving you opportunity to whatever you want to talk about. What would you want to impart, to all of the listeners of this podcast, all the automotive professionals? What's your recap of your best advice, or what would you love to tell yourself 13 years ago or 14 years ago? You know how we always hear, if I knew then what I know now. So drop some serious, right. This is the end. Let's drop that knowledge. What do you want to say?
Okay. Here's the deal. I would tell myself 13 years ago, stay the path. Even when my literally, guys, listen, my mentor fired me 4 days before Christmas. So don't ever look at something happening to you and realize that it's not an opportunity. Without him firing me, I don't become the GM of a Chevy dealership. I don't learn the lessons that I learn. I don't get the job I have now. The job where I have freedom in my schedule. I set my own time. I make great money. I attend all my family stuff. I got the job, right? But here's what I'll tell you. Never stop working. Never stop pushing for it, because if you do, you'll never get there. Understand this. People, relationships, and culture are everything. They are absolutely everything. When you do those things, the money will come. I will, if anybody wants to message me or ask, I will put my new car PVR against anybody's in the country. Wow. What we run gross profit on new cars, you can't, outside of luxury high-end brands that sell a low amount of cars and make a lot of money on them, find me a Kia store that runs what we run per car. And I say that because we provide an excellent level of service. We think that gives us attention, or gives us the ability to ask for the tip. We don't do anything shady. We're not anything outside of the normal. We're not doing anything weird or grossing up incomes or lying to banks. None of that stuff. You lie to a customer, you treat somebody wrong, you're out. That's just the rule. But you have to provide the service to ask for that. You have to build the relationships with people. Culture is everything. That's the battle cry. Culture is everything.
Man, I absolutely love it, and I think that the information you're bringing is super strong. I want to redirect in closing in this is, are you going to be on that webinar with Ali Reda? It's free. It's coming up on January 28th.
Yeah, I can be there.
Okay, so I don't know if you saw it. You're in the Millionaire Car Salesman group. I'm going to share my screen.
Yes.
And someone like you, I definitely encourage you and your people to be there. So have you seen the webinar that we posted that's in here? So if you take a look at it, it's right here. Yeah. So there, right now, we're up to like almost 250 people that have registered. All you got to do is just go here, click the description, and then there's a Zoom webinar link right there. This guy is phenomenal. This is the first time ever that he's done an interactive webinar. He's been interviewed before. I've interviewed him before, but he's never actually had an interactive webinar where you yourself as a GM or your salespeople, if you're on the webinar and it's completely free, you can ask him whatever questions. The guy sold 1,580 units in 1 year, 202 units in 1 month, and 32 cars in 1 day as a showroom salesperson. It's mind-boggling. Yeah. So I'm thinking all the amazing things I just heard you say, I would love to have you on that webinar, my friend. Cool.
Sure. I'd love to be on it. Yep.
All right. That's it. Well, listen, thank you so much for the massive, massive amount of knowledge bombs that you just dropped. And it's so powerful. And I'm excited to watch your trajectory and what you're going to do in 2020. I'm going to put you and your dealerships on my radar. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you like it, you love it, you want more of it, then don't wait for the next money show. Just go to bradleyondemand.com and take your career to the next level.